Yeah, yes, I will start. So the last class, good afternoon, and I welcome everyone. And in the last class, we were talking about the various basic concepts of sociology. In the first lecture, we spoke about classical thinkers. Then we came down to understand basic concepts. Because in sociology, you need to know the basic concepts not only for the optional paper of sociology, but also you need to know because we have something called general studies. So you need to know what actually we are speaking about, like concepts like culture, what is social structure, what do we mean by something called society, how do we define it, all these things become very important. I've already shared the slides with your coordinator, and today I will start with something called social interaction. Okay, social interaction. So before I get into it, let me share the slide. Let me share the slide so that people can see my slides. That will be good for me also. So we will talk about social interaction. Later on, many theorists have been developed. We have already talked about Mead. We have talked about Garfinkel, we have talked about Goffman, who take up this as a major study later on in the syllabus also it is there. So what is social interaction? Social interaction is the way in which people respond to each other individually by social action, how we interact with people, our perception, our position relative to our own, meaning we ascribe to others, as we were talking about symbolic interactionism, that how do we understand the self of others. Actions reflect norms and values of the dominant culture. Dominant culture is many a times we become very ethnocentric, that our culture is better than other cultures. So many a time social interactions actually facilitated, but it is very wrong. Ability of social reality and powers, group powers within the society. What are the abilities? What are the various ways in which we do that so that we can do it in a very systematic manner? Okay, so this is how we understand social interaction when we are there. Then there is something called social organization. What is the meaning of social organization? Social organization is the arrangement of the parts that constitute the society. The organization of social positions and distributions of people within the positions. That how do you distribute the positions? What are the social positions? What is the status of an individual? What are the defined niches of an organization? How does status carries out and culturally defined? What are the rights and duties of the person? So we also talk about the rules of the society. What are the rules performed by the individual? What is the concept of rule conflict? What are rule strains? What are rule exit also when we come out of that particular rule? So these were concepts which we have discussed in the last class, and now I come to a concept called groups. Very important concept, because when we talk about sociology of organization or industrial sociology, then groups become a very important role to play. What are they? They are two or more people who bound in a stable pattern of social relationship with a sense of unity. So I have an in boundary, out boundary, I have an objective, A group can have a distinct subculture. It can have allegiance in which the person can do it. It is something like this that the group can be studied. Okay, what are the types of groups? Like we can have primary group, small group based on face-to-face contact with strong ties between the members, and secondary groups can be very formal. They are distinctive types of members and all this. So, if we want to differentiate primary and secondary group, primary groups are generally small groups. They have long-term interaction, they are face-to-face association, they have an emotional depth of relationship, and they are friendly groups. Secondary groups are larger groups. They are having short duration. They have little social intimacy. They generally are superficial in nature, and they are more formal, and they are interpersonal in nature. Now we have in-group and we have out-group. What is an in-group? A in-group are any people or category who feel they belong to each other, like the family, that we belong to each other, we are in the same group, we know each other, that is a in-group. What is an out-group? A out-group where people don't have the feeling that they are a part of the group. Conflict between in-group and out-group can turn violent on personal as well as political level. Like you can have a personal feeling, you can have a political feeling which makes in-group and out-groups. So you can also have cohorts. What is a cohort? Very frequently asked questions. That is, what is a cohort? An aggregate of all the units that experience a particular demographic event during a specific time interval. Like we come together, we are fighting for a particular movement, we have come for a Chipko movement, or we have come for a women's movement, that we share the same demography like the women, as well as in a particular period of time we are together. Reference group, like example of a doctor, that any group which is standard for evaluating themselves and their own behavior. Doctors generally associate with each other because they share the same standards of conduct, the same beliefs, the same standards, same measures which they have to do. Collision, which is temporary and permanent in nature, and alliance gear, and can be in broad basis also. Socialization, which is a lifelong social experience by the people who learn the culture. That a long term to learn the culture. So how do I learn? I learn it from the school, I learn it from the family, I learn it from mass media, I learn it from the peers. Then a very important concept is social stratification. Generally, people in sociology will speak about caste, class, power. Bete has spoke about it. Emin Srinivas has spoken about it. So, stratification, Weber has spoken about it. So, every sociologist will speak about it. So, what is stratification? A system in which society ranks and categorizes people in a hierarchy, in a hierarchical manner. Groups at different spots in hierarchy, in different experiences and outcomes. The division of people, social and economically, into layers and strata. When we talk about social stratification, we draw attention into unequal position occupied by the individuals in society. In a larger traditional society and industrial countries today, there is stratification of wealth, property, access to material, cultural products. All these become basis of stratification. So you can have flow chart like this. I have shared these slides with your ma'am. You can have them for yourself. So in class, you can have a upper class, a middle class, you can have a working class, you can have a lower class. You can have in race, whites and minorities, or in black, we can always say. Gender we have today, men, women, transgender. So how it is being divided in the society, how there are different spots in the society, what are the experiences from them is there. So what is a race? Race is a human group which defines itself and is defined as other groups are different by the virtue of innate and inevitable physical characteristics and socially defined on the basis of physical criteria. What is ethnicity? Ethnicity is a cultural practice and outlook of a given community of people and set them apart from others. Members of ethnic groups see themselves as culturally distinctive from other groups in society and are seen to those others so to return. Many different characteristics may be distinguished economic groups from one another by most usual language, history, or ancestry. Real or imagined region, style, dress, etc. Ethnic differences are wholly learned. So I have the upper class, I have the lower working class. Classes are often in conflict, social conflict. People born into different classes tend to take different occupations, make society and as functional, as structural functionalism say people are born into different classes, tend to have different occupation, making the society to work. And classes in the society have different cultures, which we talk about symbols, values, and beliefs. And classes have socialization experiences also, like parental style, different educational experiences, and so far and so on. Finally, there is something called deviance. What is deviance? Deviance is when you violate the norms, the cultural norms of the society based on positive and negative, different or unexpected, and words often used as a deviance from sociological perspectives. Means when you are coming out of the system, when you are getting out of the system, so that you are not in problem. So that is the meaning of deviance. So distinct areas, like when we talk about deviance, we talk about crimes, the laws, the violation from formerly enacted by criminal law, juvenile delinquency, violation of the laws, and all these things. So, an attempt to a society makes in controlling through the behavior. What are the attempts a society makes? Passive socialization. Society's rule exists in our mind, externalized by feeling of shame and guilt. I feel shamed, I feel guilt. That is a passive socialization given by the society to me. Re-socialization. Cohesive methods are used where the people's self-image and personal perspectives on the issues. And then you have the criminal justice system, the institution that is responsible for reacting alleged violation of societal laws. So, what are the social foundation of it? Social foundation of deviance varies according to norms. What are the norms in the society? Deviance will also vary. No action is inherently deviant. Means we cannot say that yes, over a period of time it is deviant, but it is not, it becomes a deviance over a period of time. It will become deviant. How others perceive and label us. Deviance involves power. And rule makers, rule enforcers, norms, and applying them in link to social relations. So, deviance as a functional perspective affirms cultural values. If we understand deviance in a functional perspective, it will affirm cultural values. It clarifies moral boundaries. It promotes social unity. It encourages social change and open lines for communication. So, if I have something called institutional, accepted, not expected, rejected, So this is the model generally being followed by sociologists who are talking about deviance. So there is a labeling theory also for deviance. What is the labeling theory? Primary deviance, episodes of norm violation that people take part with a little harm done to the self-concept. Means little punishment you get and then you come out of it. What is secondary? When people make something of another deviant behavior, they push that to a person into the repeated norm violations, aid in the development of new deviant act. And there can be also stigma, that the mark of disgrace are often taken to a person, and disgradation ceremonies and retrospective labeling, that to reinterpret someone's past, making his journey's past behavior was consistent with his present deviant activities. Means whether he has changed or whether he is the same. Then we have control theory for deviance also. Like we have attachments. By confirming attachments, we have opportunities by which we can overcome deviance of the people to increase confidence among them. We also have something called involvement time and energy is linked to the legitimate activities, as well as belief in buying into conventional morality. Institutions are family, medical, educational, economic, religious, political system. All these are institutions. So generic definition, organized patterns of beliefs, behaviors, and basic social needs. So what we have, the functionalist view, we can reproduce membership, we can reproduce culture, we can produce and distribute goods and services, we can preserve orders, we can provide them in solutions. Major institutions help to maintain privileges of the most powerful individuals and groups within the society while contributing to the powerlessness of others. Can also view them to reinforce inequality. Okay, and interaction view. Other views interaction as a part and pattern of everyday life interaction. To use them and understand how we think that act and ways. Certain kinds of large institutions are typically described by bureaucracies. So what is a bureaucracy? Bureaucracy is a formal organization that rules and hierarchical ranking to achieve efficiency. In an industrial society, elements of bureaucracies enter from almost every operation. Weber, as a scholar, spoke about bureaucracy when he speaks about authority, when he speaks about different types of authority. Again, students, you can have these sources, you can go through these sources which can help you in what I have spoken through these slides. I have already emailed the slides to your faculty. You can actually go through it. Okay, so this was the lecture part which I have left last class. So I have continued with it. Now I go to the third lecture of your syllabus. Although I am not doing what is typically written in the UPSC syllabus, I am going with, I have prepared slides as per the UPSC preparation optional paper. I'll go through. If I am left with something which is there in the UPSC paper, I can incorporate it later and give you a lecture. Okay, that will not be a problem for me. But important concepts I have tried to cover first in the form of slides so that it is easy for a person who is taking it as an optional subject to go through the material. So today we will talk about caste and we will learn what is caste all about. Very important. Gurrier, J.S. Gurrier, the father of Indian sociology, has spoken about caste. He spoke about caste and how is caste defined? A type of social organization, hierarchy in which a person's occupation, position of the life is determined by the circumstances of his birth. We were talking about social stratification so far. Caste is also stratified. So what is that in caste? Rigidities, hereditary membership in the birth caste, marriage only among the members of the same caste, occupation choices restricted, personal contact with the other caste restriction, acceptance of the fixed place in the caste society, and members of the caste rely on each other for support. This is the basic feature of the caste. So what is the meaning of the caste? The Varna Stadam, Dharma. The Brahmin is the priest. The Kshatriya is the king and the warrior. The Vaishya is the trader and the peasant. The Shudra is the peasant, artisan and the manual worker. Outside caste system. And Dalits, you have untouchables. You have confined and designated demeaning profession. You have the Jati Bhed Pratha, and you have the theory of karma-based deeds and your cycle of rebirth. So colonization, there's lot of discussion that what is the relationship between colonizationism and caste system. Origin of the word caste, making sense of the complex Indian caste reality, ratification of the caste system, agrarian system, which you can see in your syllabus, census, reinforcement of caste identity, social mobility, concept of Sanskritization, caste and division of people. So there are certain points like Congress being predominant, Congress, social reforms, Gandhi and untouchable, many discussions which come in this period of time. Each caste has an occupation and contributes to the goods of the whole. The Jajman is the landlord and the Kameen is the landholder and the lower caste. So today more in the market system, you have the barber, you have the blacksmith, you have the carpenter, you have the potter, you have the priest, and you have the landholder against the king. So how is caste determined? Reincarnation. The person is born, lives, dies, reborn again many a time. Soul are reborn many a times and they are pure among that creator of Brahma. Dharma. The code of behavior are set to moral and ethical rules that govern the conduct of the social group. Each group has different set of rules to live by. Karma. A person's social position in the next life is determined by his conduct in the present. And the laws of money, Hindu book of sacred law, rules and restrictions from the daily life. Okay, what is it and when did it start? Indian caste system is perhaps the world's largest, longest surviving social hierarchy. Hierarchy is system of rank, upper class, middle class, lower class. It is supposedly the most more than 2000 years old. The caste system is a part of the Hindu religion. A person is considered to be the member of the caste into which he or she is born and remains within the caste until his death. You are born into the caste depending upon the dharma. According to Hindu religion, there is a division of 4 classes called the Varna. This is Varna. The person has some Varna by his parents and he or she had its caste death and no way to change. Hindus did not question the Varna system and it is simply considered as part of the reverse birth. These are all the Varna system, caste system, and the three above are voice-born groups. Untouchables, there are fifth major class of Hinduism, and most people have untouchable. Although there are a lot of contributors to this system, they have grown, and but then it was a concept of their untouchables. Lot of studies are being done. They are doing very well, but they had some restrictions in the history, so they were put differently. The purity, the never eat that they have, they don't go to the same restaurant, they don't marry, and women generally marry up. All these things are stress. And along with Varna, you are born to a Jati. Jati, what is Jati? Jati is a profession or a job. There are different Jatis from every kind of job: blacksmith, farmers, shoemakers, accountants. Under the caste system, parents knew that the jobs their kids would have been hold before the kids were born. To get good karma, you must always live well in your jati. Today, jati might be not determined your profession, but these groups still exist. Caste today is officially illegal in India. 1962, a law was passed and teachability are still not treated well. Reforms were suggested by Mahatma Gandhi. There was a British rule. He suggested the concept of Harijan as a gesture of change, and this has to be changed. So now people are entering all the fields. They are there, and although it is an illegal discrimination of low prejudices still continue. We can see this in the God of Small Things. Much of what is set in 1969, nearby 2 decades after the passing of this law. The growth of the cities were created new forms and contract between different castes, which do not existed before. But it is still possible to see advertisements of caste and jobs specifying Brahmin only. Much discrimination is unspoken, although untouchability is receiving lower pay and menial jobs. So it is negative because social stratification is there, unemployment is there, the question of human rights are there, constitution is there, and positive points also. It brings in stable structure, traditional way of life, karma, dharma is all there, determined identity, and creates a support of the society. But it is the negative points are more prominent than the positive points. The positive points have changed to negative points. That is why negative points should be given more emphasis than positive. Now I come down to discussing what Professor M.N. Srinivas in 1971 discussed in this book, The Social Change in Modern India. In the UPSC paper, you have Professor M.N. Srinivas' work to be discussed. So today I discuss it with you here. The term refers to the process by which people of the lower caste collectively try to adopt upper class practices and beliefs as preliminary steps to acquire higher class. Thus, this indicates a process of cultural mobility that took place in traditional social system in India. Sanskritization is a form of upward social mobility found in temporary India, whereby people born into the lower class can achieve a higher status and taking on some of the behaviors and practices of highest Brahmin caste. Meaning, the Sanskritization is not a new phenomenon. It is a major process of cultural change in Indian history. It occurred as a part of Indian subcontinent. It donates to process in which lower class try to imitate the lower lifestyles of the upper class. In this attempt, it rises the social structure. The process seems to be associated with the role of the local dominant class. It means a process by which low caste system or tribe or another group changes its custom, rituals, ideology, way of life, and the direction of high frequently twice born caste. Okay, the analysis of Sanskritization. Sanskritization denotes the process of upward mobility. It is a process of the caste for trying increase in the position of the caste hierarchy and not at once but over a period of time. It would be something, a period from one generation. Mobility that involved in the process of socialization results only in positional change, which is very important from exam point of view. It is a positional change from one particular caste to sections of the caste and need not necessarily lead to a structural change. It remains which individual castes move up and down the structure as such means of this. The caste which enjoyed higher economic political power but relatively low in ritual ranking went Sanskritization, or they felt that it claims a higher position and was not relatively affected. Economic betterment is not a necessary precondition to Sanskritization, nor economic development when it necessarily led to Sanskritization. However, there are sometimes a caste or a tribe may start to acquire political power and lead to economic growth and Sanskritization. Okay, Sanskritization is not necessarily confined to the caste within the Hindu community. It is found among the tribal communities also. The Bhils of the Western India, the Gonds and the Orients of the Middle India, the Pahadiris of the Himalayas are influenced by the Sanskritization. These tribal communities are now claiming themselves as Hindus. The process of Sanskritization serves as a reference group. We have talked about reference group in the general concept discussion today, that a doctor will refer to the group of Indian Medical Association as a part of his reference. Caste Sanskritization also serves as a reference group. It is through the process of caste group tries to orient his beliefs, practices, values, lifestyle in terms of another superior or dominant group so that it can get some recognition. Sanskritization does not take place in same manner in all the places. Okay, so it is something like this. So now impact of Sanskritization. What are the impact of Sanskritization? Impact of Sanskritization is modern education is an impact of Sanskritization. Vedas have conceived intellectual contemplation and empirical observation. Reformist and their organizations have created an impact to remove the gap in secular writings that has been shared. There are also criticisms of Sanskritization. Stoll gave a criticism of the use by Srinivas, and another anthropologist is a complex concept of class, misleading in the term of extremely complicated. Vikendra Singh opined that Sanskritization fails to account that there are many aspects of cultural change in the past and the contemporary India. It neglects the non-Sanskritic traditions. Sanskritic influence has not been universal in all parts of the country. In North India, especially in Punjab, it was Islamic tradition which provided a basis of cultural imitation. When we try to interpret certain changes that has taken place in the field of social mobility. In the light of we face certain prejudices. Very important scholar in studying. According to Dr. Srinivas, political and economic forces are normally favorable for Sanskritization. But policy of reservation, a constitutional attempt to elevate the status of lower class people presence have been in different pictures. Theoretically, the policy of reservation must be supported by such events, but paradoxically, it goes against it. Those who avail the reservation benefits have developed a vested interest in calling themselves Dalit or scheduled caste. They have been called permanently benefits of such. Westernization is a caste system, is a process of westernization of the caste system in India, with the effort of missionaries to convert India into Christianity by the East India Company, first to trade and later on to increase political power. East India Company successfully established by the British imperial rule in 58. British rule produced radical and lasting changes in the Indian social and culture. The British brought into new technology, institutions, knowledge, beliefs and values. They have become the main source of social mobility for individuals as well as the groups. What Srinivas has to tell about it refers to his change brought about by Indian society and the 150 years of British rule and the term of occurring in different levels of technology, ideology, values. It explains the impact of Western contact, particularly British rule on Indian society and culture. M.N. Srinivas used the term westernization and describes the changes in the non-Western countries have undergone as a result of prolonged contact with the Western world. It implies Srinivas certain value preferences, which turns to subsume several values like humanitarianism. It implies an active concern and for the welfare of all human beings, irrespective of caste, economic positions, religion, age, sex. Westernization not only includes introduction to new institutions but a fundamental change of all institutions. India had schools long for arrival. So, however, increase of westernization does not retard the process of Sanskritization. Both go simultaneously. In some extent, westernization accelerates Sanskritization. Postal services, railway, buses, newspapers, foods, Western impact on India render and organize religious pilgrimages, caste solidarity compared to the past. Opening the door of knowledge, educating all, highlighting on legal practices, attention of the social reformers, responsibility for opening the modern mind, these were being done. So these were westernization. This is westernization. But madam, today I will stop here. That I think a lot of portion I have covered today. So I don't want to overload this. Next class I will take criticisms of westernization. I will talk about modernization. There is a portion with M.N. Srinivas which we are talking about. So I think with this we can actually finish the caste system in India and we can move to the class system which is taking place. Okay. So is it fine? Is it fine, madam? Hello? Since it is raining also, there is little internet problem may also come. So is it fine, madam? Hello? Hello? Yeah. I have finished a lot of part today, so I think this will be more than enough. I will share the slides also once I finish of the lecture 3. Students can go through, and I will continue again next Monday with the left portion. Okay. I think there is little rain also in Sri Perumbudur, so internet connection may go anytime. That will be more embarrassing. Okay, so I will stop here today. Okay, thank you.